So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Dr. Mark Solomon. He's a board certified colon and rectal surgeon. He's the medical director of colorectal surgery for Advent Health Digestive Health and Surgery Institute, and is also the department chairman for colorectal surgery. He's from Florida and a proud graduate of University of Florida. And he finished his medical degree with honors by the age of 23 after serving as chief resident at Baptist Health in Birmingham, Alabama. He obtained his advanced specialty training at colorectal surgery of Colon and Rectal Clinic of Orlando. He's one of the most recognized colon and rectal surgeons nationwide in terms of robotic colorectal surgical operations and experience, and has certainly provided us with a litany of educational materials, especially on his platform Surgeon, as well as on YouTube. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce him to give us a primer on social media for the surgeon, as well as a quick overview of how he edits and produces his phenomenal educational videos.
Thanks, Susie, Matt, and the leadership team on the CRS Virtual Education Board. So I'm really looking forward to tonight. So this is a very different conversation than I'm used to having. This is, usually I'm talking about, a technical discussion on how to, cut a rectum out or do an anastomosis. But actually what Susie and the team asked me to do is actually to walk through how I basically conceptualize and then go through the whole video creation process. But also with that, it makes sense also to discuss some of the nuances of social media and the surgeon, just how in general we interact with it. I'm going to be looking at the chat questions both on Surgeon and Zoom. So just chime in throughout. Let's keep this as informal as possible. But let's get through this. So basically, here's kind of the outline. We'll go a little bit about the background of why we're even talking about this. Really, one of the most important things, and again, go through all this, is defining your why. Why even do all this? We would talk about finding your voice. We'll talk about choosing your platform. And we'll talk about executing on your plan. And so this is not going to necessarily, the first part of this is not going to be all me. It's going to be all about you guys, how to define what you want to actually talk about. The reality is social media is here to stay. Since 2011, the overwhelming majority of informal surgical learning has actually transitioned to online public platforms. As of 2021, 45,000 publications were peer-reviewed that showed that basically social media is here to stay in the medical and surgical literature. And about 88% of all healthcare providers were on social media at least 1 hour per day. And this is pre-pandemic. I can only imagine if we did this survey post-pandemic, what that would actually be. So bottom line, it's here to stay, but there are problems with it. And I want to call this out to the very beginning because there are endless privacy concerns. You have definite medical legal exposures to be concerned about. Your personal data is sold, and none of these platforms are actually purpose-built for the stuff that we're doing, except for one. But we'll talk about all these as we go. So these are kind of the things that you want to keep in mind. And I want you to look at all these next slides through the lens of you have to understand what you're getting into prior to diving into it. And first and foremost, you got to really define your why in engaging in social media. And I talk about this all the time on the robotics, say, learning curve stuff, and in anything that you do. If you don't have a North Star of why you're doing what you're doing, and you're just kind of floating in an ocean, you're going to fail. You're not, if you don't have a direction that you're trying to go to, it will fail, whether it's engagement on social media, whether it's fellowship, residency, training, relationships, whether it's an exercise plan, whatever it is. If you don't have an end goal, somewhat of an end goal in mind, and that can lock you down to your why, it's very difficult actually to engage and have any intentionality behind it. So the first thing you really want to talk about is, what is your why in engaging in social media? Are you just bored? Are you just doom scrolling just to doom scroll? And you don't want to actually get engaged. You just want to be more of a consumer, which is fine. But if you're going to be on the engaging side, like actually to do stuff on social media production, which you really should, you want to look at it again, why you want to do this. Is it more for personal education or personal edification? Is it more because you want to be on the side of it and do patient outreach or social outreach in terms of educating the masses, educating the public about, for example, Colon Cancer Awareness Month. For example, look at this really cool new device that I have, or name the item that you're talking about. And in terms of doing that to build your personal brand, I actually took screenshots. I didn't get a chance to put it in here, but two people that are doing this incredibly well, Cedric McFadden and Betsy Dovek. Cedric's a buddy of mine, colorectal surgeon, Charleston, South Carolina. Cedric's brand is he's been cultivating a social media presence for him to become an anchor or a co-host, or basically like a legitimate, like Today in America, like what's it called? One of those Today shows, excuse me. He is actually an anchor now on the Today Show. So he'll fly from South Carolina up to Manhattan and speak on the Today Show about multiple things when it comes to GI surgery or colorectal cancer awareness and so on. Yeah, Aaron, you definitely love to on the Today Show. Thank you. And Betsy Dovek. Betsy is actually a bariatric surgeon here in Orlando, Florida, and I know Betsy well. She was my counterpart. She was the chief of colorectal. Sorry, she was the chief of bariatric surgery. I was the chief of colorectal, and so she ran the service line for bariatrics. I'm mentioning her because Betsy has a monstrosity of a following for patients on a private Facebook group and also her Instagram page. She does absolutely zero education to physicians. It's all about engaging the patient and creating a community around bariatric patients. And so that's her brand that she's built. But that's what she does. That's what she's doing, and that's her why. Her why and Cedric's why are very clear in their mind. And because they know what their why is, it's very intentional how they execute on their specific social media strategy. Your why, your goal may be different. Your goal may be to educate others. Yes, patients. It could be to educate students. It could be to educate residents or fellows. It could be to educate general surgeons, colorectal surgeons. It could just be in the ether. Just you're going to educate the masses about, I don't know, productivity or whatever. I mean, you're going to have your own why, your own goal, but you have to have something. And it could be entertainment, like Dr. Glockenflecken. Dude is hilarious. And he's just kind of making fun of physicians, and it's fantastic. Again, he has his why, he has his goal. And the reality is, though, if you don't have a specific audience you're targeting, and you're kind of you're just speaking into the ether, it likely will not have the intended effect, would be my guess. You know, if I, as a colorectal surgeon, on my YouTube channel start putting cooking shows or cooking content, or I start talking about whatever, if I start educating patients about you know, name the type video, or I start racing cars on my channel, it's very different. It's probably not going to have the same feel as what you guys are used to on, say, my YouTube channel or Surgeon, whatever. So again, you got to start with your why before you start engaging in social media. And it's your why that informs how you manage yourself online. And what I mean by that is what your why is the lens through which you must look to find your voice. And so what am I finding your voice? You know, you have your voice like right now. We're talking, I'm being very just kind of forward and casual. We're just having a conversation. So I tend to have a more laid back voice on social media. Some people may want to choose to have, for example, a more formal, I called it stuffy. Nothing wrong with that. I probably shouldn't have written the word stuffy, but you get the idea, as you can have a more formal tone on social media. You could have more of a comedic approach and to find your voice. Oh, you know, you can have a very open or transparent, very vulnerable type voice on social media, or something else I didn't even think of, just creating this bulleted list. And the reality is, in a few months, you'll no longer be in training. So it's okay to be yourself. You know, you've been raised in residency and in fellowship to be very protective over not posting a single thing on social media for fear of someone reviewing a residency or fellowship application or job application, for example, to find you on social media. And because of, as you guys may remember, a few years ago, the Med Bikini Gate, there's a big controversy in the vascular surgery journal that basically published that if you publish photos of yourself in bikinis or whatever else, drinking or getting drunk, likely that will affect your application to whatever program. And there was a massive uproar about this article and how insensitive it was and whatever else. And right or wrong and whatever, wherever you sit on that topic, the bottom line is social media is examined before you apply for jobs and before you go into fellowship or residency. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong or whatever it is, but the bottom line, it's actually being done, even though there was a big uproar about it, about that one specific med bikini gate or whatever it is. But the reality is, in a few months, you're not going to care about that because you have a job, or you will have a job, and it's okay to be yourself. Most important thing, just don't be a jerk online. And with that, not being a jerk, there's a few things that you need to really have to look through, some ground rules that as you're trying to find your voice online, and you're going to experiment. You're going to find, do I want to be more casual? Do I want to be more stuffy? Do I want to be more, comedic? Do I want to be more whatever? You're going to have to experiment with what your voice is. But the bottom line is you got to abide by some ground rules first. You want to know your institution's social media policy, because this could really mess you up. You got to obviously clearly avoid PHI. You want to choose your platform, which we're going to talk about in just a second. You definitely want to avoid inflammatory comments, especially in a specialty like colorectal surgery, because we all know each other. We're literally 1 degree of separation apart from each other. So if you're coming to me for a job with a literal single text message, I can find everything out about you. And if you're a jerk online, I probably will know that, for example. So you certainly want to avoid inflammatory comments or just being not the nicest person online, because it just gets out a little bit bigger in that regard. If you are the type of person that wants to put yourself out there for patients to get in touch with you, patients contact me all the time, whether it's through Twitter or through my YouTube page, or even my Google reviews page, which is a big deal, where I get actually a lot of patients from my reviews on Google. You want to make sure that you're clear about your availability to your patients. In other words, you could put these away messages or set privacy settings to prevent people from contacting you on these platforms. I actually welcome it because I like getting, I like keeping those lines of communications open for multiple areas. Of course, you want to be able to adjust privacy settings. You want to potentially consider using a pseudonym if you're engaging in specific social media outlets, which I'll discuss in just a minute. And then you also want to consider, for example, creating a professional page. I know you can do this, of course, on Facebook. You can do it. You can do it also on, say, Twitter or Instagram or even LinkedIn. You can also, of course, disable outside comments on your page. So anyway, high-level things to consider. But again, as you're experimenting with what your voice needs to be and the platforms that you want to use, these are things you want to keep in mind. Here's a table that I created that really discusses and outlines all the platforms, not all, but many of the platforms that are available. And they all have strengths and they all have limitations. YouTube, this is the first item here. Actually, let me back up. All platforms have a specific audience that they go after, and all platforms have a specific type content that are ideal. So for example, YouTube specializes in long form video content. Yes, there's this the idea they're trying to do shorts to compete with TikTok or whatever else, but it thrives with the long form video content, specifically education, reference, and of course entertainment. That's what succeeds on YouTube. It is, by the way, the second largest search engine on the internet after Google, and as you know, YouTube is owned by Google. So keep that in mind as you're picking a platform, for example, to get active on. Facebook. The target audience is a little bit older, actually. This is more for personal family connection type content, posting pictures of the new baby, the wedding, the divorce, whatever it is. And this is an older audience. And on this, the majority of people that engage, especially in the surgical community, are on the groups, the RSCs, the RBCs, the IHCs. There's not really a very strong colorectal presence on Facebook, but the SAGES group has one, ACRS group, but they're not super active. The point is here, again, that's the type of audience. Their content is, some video, some text, a lot of conversations. Data privacy concerns are huge with Meta or Facebook, and they have a dwindling user base. Actually, their users are definitely decreasing for other platforms. Instagram, you guys know this, better than I do even. The target content here is highly curated, highly polished videos and photos, which leads to a lot of issues. And because it's owned by Facebook/Meta, it again has data privacy issues, and it really, unfortunately, has issues with the vulnerable youth population when it targets them with, different types of content in terms of like eating disorders and whatever else. There's a lot of concerns in that regard. But anyway, just for awareness, TikTok, its target is short form video purely. It's mostly entertainment, but there's a really a large growing STEM and educational content kind of portfolio on the platform, but super short. Nothing's long form, owned by the Chinese government. So that's another issue that to consider. Twitter, short form text snippets. You're not really going to have long form discussions. It's very difficult to have a long holistic discussion on Twitter. But what's great about Twitter is that you're connected instantly to people all over the world, but it's mass chaos at the moment because of a change in ownership. But I think it's actually going to turn the corner here. LinkedIn, again, it has its own audience. It's a professional network. It's there basically for job searching and job flexing, saying, oh, I just did this today. I became CPR certified, or I spoke at this conference. And the reality is it's owned by Microsoft, but it is peacocking by definition. And what is peacocking? There's a thing called peacocking. There's a thing called bullying. There's a thing called trolling. Peacocking is, do you guys know peacock? A male peacock, in order for the male peacock to mate, the male peacock will show its massive bouquet of feathers. I don't know what the technical term is for it. Like all its feathers is going to show. The bigger its feathers, the more likely it is to mate, and the more likely it is to succeed. So peacocking on social media is to show only your brightest feathers. You're not going to show your complications. You're not going to talk about the fact you were just fired. You're not going to talk about the fact that you had a problem or complication. You're not going to talk about that. You're going to only talk about the best of the best of the best, the best things. And that's what, by definition, LinkedIn actually is. Celebrating 1 year here, celebrating I got a new position, celebrating all this, celebrating your wins only versus having conversations about your failures or your problems is one of those things that you want to make sure that you're aware of, that happens on LinkedIn, and it actually happens on all the platforms. The other thing about LinkedIn is operative videos are immediately flagged and pulled down. So you cannot post a single photo or video with any blood or guts in it. It'll just get pulled down. Surgeon is another platform. It's built for surgeons by surgeons, and it's amazing in all aspects. I'm a little biased, but I'll go to the next one. And you have Reddit. And Reddit, it's a completely anonymous user base. Its purpose is for longer form text-based content, and it's purely optimized for like a forum-like experience. Videos and photos are a much later addition to the to that platform. So just take it for what it's worth. So as I'm kind of having these discussions, this will basically inform how you approach what your platform is and what voice you want. So if you're like me, who all I wanted to do was educate my fellows, and I needed a place to put longer form content, I gravitated naturally towards YouTube. If you're the type of person who just wants to put like Dr. Glaucomflecken type things where you're just joking around and making fun of people on really easy editing software or whatever, boom, TikTok's going to be the way to go. So for example, just know what you're getting with the platform and then optimize according to that. So I want to just take a quick segue just a little bit into talking about video editing. So this is all that stuff I just discussed was discussing you and your platform and your voice and kind of what you're trying to optimize for on the social media side. But once you find your voice and once you find that platform that you're going to want to land on, let's take me, for example. I wanted to start doing technical videos because I didn't feel like there was a really good library that discusses a lot of the technical issues that I was never trained on in my own residency or my own fellowship. And fun fact, those videos, I don't know if I told you guys this before, but those videos that are on my YouTube channel began as an internal kind of, I was annoyed by saying the same thing to all my fellows over and over again. So I sat down. I remember this. It was over, I think it was Thanksgiving weekend. I sat in my dad's office at home with my parents' place in Tallahassee, Florida. I locked myself in my dad's office, popped a AirPod, not it was with the ear pods, the old ones that had the headphones with a mic on it, and I just went through and recorded an entire hour-long course. And then what I did was I took that course. Anytime I had a new fellow come on my rotation, I would just email them the private video on YouTube. Those videos somehow got out to more than just my fellows, and I got a lot of positive feedback about them. So then I started chopping them up into smaller videos. Those are my Write Collecting Me videos from the very beginning of the channel. That then snowballed into, let me actually walk through a little bit more intentional, like LAR and whatever else, different types of anastomosis and so on. And then the channel has basically morphed into what it is today, but it was all on accident. Why I'm mentioning this is because I used my own video review, my own video to review my videos, because I knew, and I definitely know now, that technical skill directly correlates with patient outcomes. So it's a brief segue, but there's all this data to show that as you do more and better surgery, technical scores and technical skill account for a reduction in patient complications. It's going to make sense why I'm talking about this right now, because as you are, for example, you find your voice to be the one that I'm going to start editing videos, my own videos, and posting them online. Or you know what? I don't want to post my videos anywhere. I just want to look at them myself. The bottom line is just watch your videos. If you can watch your videos, the point is your technical skill directly correlates with patient outcomes, which is what this manuscript says. And these two manuscripts here that I'm going to talk about also show that reviewing your videos directly correlates with the improvement of your technical skill. So this right here talks about 14 different surgeons, 14 different surgeons accepting coaching, and those coaches that were going, taking surgeons through their own videos, or having them take their videos and reviewing them all, allowed them to improve both their technical skill and their patient outcomes. And same thing here, there's a Surg Onc manuscript that basically looked at 4 complex Surg Onc operations performed by surgeons of varying experience recorded, and they all used their own videos and then narrated them back. And as they narrated them back, they all found that it was definitely helpful and it improved their technical skill and their intraoperative decision-making. So the point of all this that I'm just mentioning, this slight little segue, is that if you are going to, whether you're going to be active on social media or not, I don't care what you do, just watch your videos. Watch your videos, edit your videos if need be, but just watch your videos, because it absolutely will make your technical skills and your patient outcomes improve. All right. All that said, I'm going to back away from the segue and I'll go now a little bit more granular into discussing like my editing kind of workflow. And so one of the things, and Fahim, this is for you here. So what I end up doing is I'm breaking this down to 2 different platforms: the Mac OS platform / iPad OS, or PC. So for video editing, the easiest thing to use is iMovie. Super, super, super easy. And I'll show you a demo here in just a moment of iMovie being used to edit video. I sometimes will just use QuickTime, which is the default like video player on the Mac. If I just want to trim like the beginning and the end of the video, it's much quicker just to trim, and save. Or you can certainly use something called Final Cut Pro, which is more professional grade equipment. That's pure Mac software. There's going to be software that's both for PC and Mac, which I'll talk about in just a minute too. I don't have a PC, but if you do have a PC, there's other applications like Power Director Essential, which is free, VideoPad, which is free, and also the default application called Windows Video Editor. All that stuff is free and comes, it can be downloaded or comes with Windows software, Windows operating system rather. Or you can use platforms that are both on Mac and PC, like Adobe Premiere Pro, which is what I use now. There's open source software. Fahim, this is for you. DaVinci Resolve, excellent open source software, which is used. And I also use Camtasia, which again, I'll show you what my workflow looks like. And each of these things has a specific use case, and we use it for specific items within kind of the editing workflow. So here's my editing workflow. So first I come up with an idea. And I'm going to take you through the idea I had, the video I just published actually, on the ConoS anastomosis done robotically. So I always want to come up with an idea, and you should see my notes app. I probably have like, I don't know, maybe I think it's like 150, 200 different video ideas that I have, and I haven't done any of them. So they're all in there, and eventually I'll get to them. But first, I always want to come up with an idea. And then usually what that looks like is I'll start a note in my note-taking app of choice, which is Evernote, and I'll just create basically bullet points as an outline for a future script. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. And then what I'll do is I'll collect videos or images or screenshots or manuscripts and ideas into one place. And what that looks like, basically, I have a enterprise level Google Drive that syncs with all of my laptop, my desktop, my work computer. It syncs with all my computers, so that way I have everything. You could do the same thing with, say, Dropbox. But that way, when I edit a video, for example, it's synced to all my devices, and I can edit from no matter whichever machine or my iPad or phone, whatever that I'm on, because I can have access to my videos and files at all time. And then what I'll do, and I'll show you the workflow here in just a minute. Once I've collected images and collected videos and collected images and collected manuscripts and all my ideas, and kind of have an idea of what the story that I want to tell, this idea is coming to life, then I'll say, you know what, let me take an operative video and edit it down. And I'll trim all the fluff out, the camera cleans, and there may be just like a 30-second part of an operation that I really want to tell the story of, for example. And depending upon the complexity of the video edit that I'm doing, I may use Adobe Premiere, but sometimes I just use iMovie, even on my iPad, which is really nice for like when we're on trips or in between cases, for example. I can do that on my iPad or even iPhone. And again, all my files are cloud-based, so I can work wherever I am, which makes it nice. And a natural question is, well, where do you get your videos from? And certainly I used to just walk into the operating room and take like a jump drive like this, and then plug it into the device, which works fine. But my bandwidth is very thin these days, and so I go with the least amount of friction possible. So nowadays, all my videos get synced to a cloud, and it's a platform called CSATs. So all my stuff lives on CSATs, and when I want something, I just kind of hack the site and download the video, and that's how I end up editing them and go. Once I've kind of, in my mind at least, collected all the videos and all the images and have told the story in my own head that I like, then I'll create a slide deck in Keynote. And you can use Photoshop, or rather PowerPoint, whatever you like, but it just helps me kind of keep my thoughts in the slides kind of organized in my mind. And then what I do is I end up maturing and iterating on a script for, say, a YouTube video, and then I'll end up using Camtasia to put it all together. So it sounds like an extensive thing, but the point is, none of this is done in a day. This I don't do all the time heavy lifts where I just go sit there for 9 hours to get something done, because I don't have time to do any of that stuff. So like these videos, they may take months of just slow burns, slow like drip, drip, drip of information, until I kind of culminate. It's like, okay, now I'll actually sit there and record the audio for it or record the video for it. But that's kind of it. So let me just show you what like the ideation and scripting looks like. So this is in my phone. I have this app called Evernote. I've been using it for 10 years now. So my whole life is in this. But basically, like, I had a note from probably 6 months ago called the ConoS anastomosis script. And high level, I wanted to cover the history of what it is, why to do it, and some of the controversy behind it, and then the technical construction. And I'll again walk you through this video, all of it. And then as I was basically like going through and just doing Google searches or whatever, if I found a video that I liked or a website that I liked, I would actually just paste the link inside this note, so I could just easily visit it at a later date. And then I would just start putting things high level, like what's the ConoS anastomosis. I would take a blurb of text from this manuscript and cite it in this document. And below here, this is just a screenshot, is the whole script. I mean, actually, I will script out what I'm going to write. Just makes my recording session a little bit faster. You're going to have a lot of files. So what I end up doing is I have a file / project management. What's the term? protocol or kind of a strategy called the PARA method. I got this from a guy named Tiago Forte, and it's basically, it's broken down into projects, areas, resources, and archives. And I have the PARA method duplicated across everything. It's in my Google Drive. It's on my task manager. It's on my Evernote. Everywhere that I am, I have PARA. So one of my projects is a ConeOS project. So every couple of days, I'll just go in there and drop a document, drop a photo, drop a whatever. And also in my Evernote is a project called ConeOS. And so like I'll add to the script, I'll add whatever. So then when I'm ready to record it, I just sit there and just go back and I just drop all the images and files and photos into the editing software, and I just kind of record it all in one big go. And then when I'm done with this, go back, I just basically take that active project and drag it to the archives folder. So it's constantly kind of moving back and forth. So I have a kind of an active repository. So I do, if you guys are looking for any sort of productivity advice, look up Tiago Forte PARA method. Highly encourage it, because like in my projects folder, I have like 90 ongoing projects, stuff for the hospital, stuff for surgeons, stuff for my personal life, stuff for manuscript writing. So all my active projects are there. And when I'm done with them, I just flip them to the archives and I can pull them back out and so on. So it's a very slick method that keeps me a little bit more optimized and efficient. Okay. All right. So there's that. I'm going to stop this share, and I'm going to now share my video editing screen, which is in iMovie. And actually, let me take a couple cool questions. So Shanker, excluding podcast. So Beth Ann Shanker, my favorite, is asking, excluding podcasts, do you think there's a benefit for more than one person to post and talk together about a video or a topic? It's more natural to have a conversation, etc. Absolutely. Absolutely. Shanker, I love what you said. There's no doubt that having more of a conversational discussion definitely makes such a one-sided thing not as makes it a little bit more natural. So I totally agree with that, and I love video podcasts in that regard. And I think actually what it does, it kind of forces you to actually do the work because you're on someone else's time. So excellent point. Yeah, and Andreas, definitely Snapchat's in there too. And Robert Cunningham mentions in Vimeo. So Rob, it's a good point that Vimeo definitely can be a platform, but what I found with Vimeo is it's not as discoverable. It's you can't really discover the videos, but absolutely you can post them. You don't get filtered. You don't get ads put against them either, which is good. So excellent point. All right. Susie's asking for video review. How do you keep organized? I know we've spoken about batching, but do you review them by week, by procedure type? Yeah, excellent question, Susie. So no, I batch review my videos. So I would have done, for example, every week nowadays, I'll do anywhere from 2 to 4 colectomies. I used to do anywhere from 6 to 8 robotic cases a week. Now, because of my administrative role, I've decreased my operative load a little bit. So probably at the end of the week, end of every 2 weeks, when I'm bored, I'll just sit there on my cell phone and I pop the CSATs app up and just watch the operative video back at like 30x speed, anywhere from 10 to 30x speed. And it's important because I just want to watch. There's nothing really I'm looking for specifically. Excuse me. There's nothing I'm looking for specifically, but it definitely helps me just stay engaged with what I'm doing. And I actually want to show one other thing here before I talk about my videos, because it's pertinent to this discussion about video review. So I'm going to go here. I don't know why it's giving this dark. Oh, that's weird. Okay. So this right here, this video review framework actually is a manuscript that was just submitted for publication. I hope you guys can see this okay. I don't think you can see this. This is terrible.
We can kind of see.
Okay, I'll talk through it. But at the top of the screen here, the type of video review is dictated by either it is a critical incident, or it could be a unique case, or it could be a new technique or procedure, or it could be a routine case. So there's 4 major buckets of videos that exist. And so, for example, Katie Specht, who's on the call, we did a disaster, a sigmoidectomy a couple of weeks ago on a BMI of what it felt like 1 million. And then it ended up literally destroying her left ureter, first in my career. That's a critical incident that fills into column 1. First ureteral injury in my life. And now so that's in the critical incident side on the left. So I'm looking at this video in slow 1, maybe 2x speed to ask the question of what went wrong? What did I do? And then I felt like that was worth sharing. So at the bottom there, is it worth sharing? And yes, it was worth sharing. And I posted that video. It was an utter complication on my behalf. I posted it to Surgeon to share the learnings of that one video. There are other video types that you'll have. It's a unique case. Like I'll show you right now in just a moment, my workflow to get through this duodenojejunectomy that I did for some random reason, or a few the other video that I'll show in just a minute, the CONOS anastomosis teaching series. Those are unique cases. So we're going to watch them a little bit slower, talk about what I learned on it, and share it as well. Same thing, a new technique or procedure. You're going to watch it at a slightly accelerated speed and just really ask myself, how did I do on that operation? And I may or may not want to share it, but it's something that I'm going to personally want to review to ensure that I did well and I can iterate and do better the next time around. And finally, if it's a routine case, I may watch these up to 30 speed and ask myself, what went well in that operation, or what can I improve in that operation? Again, is it worth sharing? And the bottom line is all this, the funnel at the very bottom is this stuff worth sharing? But the most important thing when you're looking at video review is to do it and to make sure that you're being critical about what you're learning and what you're doing. And Avery says, remember, Twitter allows long form content. Yeah, Avery, no one cares. Okay, just saying. All right, so I'm gonna stop the share here, and let's go back to my iMovie. No, Avery's right. So if you're verified in Twitter, you can submit up to 2 hours of video on Twitter, but no problem. And now, so we'll just take you through a quick video. So this actually is a video that Dum here did on. It was a lady that referred to me for diverticulitis. Turned out it was proximal jejunal diverticulitis, and I said, I don't do this type of surgery. So let me send you off to a bariatric surgeon that may be able to help you. But she really wanted me to do the operation. So I called one of my bariatric colleagues to actually kind of hold my hand during this case to make sure I didn't do anything stupid. So here what I'm doing is I'm just kind of watching the video, and I've edited this video already kind of, but what I'm going to do now is just show you kind of my editing workflow. So I'm getting through this case. You know what, this is taking too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the space bar to stop. Apple B on my keyboard is basically the thing that cuts the video. And so here it looks like I'm going to just kind of just go a little bit there, and there's a jump right there. So here, I don't like that I don't want this little 1.8 second segment of video. So I'm just going to do what's called a ripple delete. And ripple delete allows you to take the video that you've deleted, and it basically takes all the downstream video and pulls it closer. Versus just straight up delete will leave maybe a 1.8 second gap that you need to fill. So ripple delete versus delete. Same thing here. I'm just kind of literally peeling this this jejunal diverticulum off of the ligament of Treitz, and I'm just kind of hacking away at it. And it's it's okay. I don't really like my traction. I'm just really editing this video just for more my knowledge. I don't like how that jumped. So let me kind of go back a little bit here and you know what, let's just cut this from here. Oops. I'm going to cut from here to here out. Let's go to right there. I'm going to cut this part out. And so now we're going to go from one frame here of that hand over hand kind of handover technique, and where it should jump in about 1 second here to the next frame where I'm exposing the dissected out jejunal diverticulum. And I do this. You kind of go through the whole operation and say, okay, what does what does transecting the jejunal, the duodenal-jejunal junction look like by a colorectal surgeon at the fourth portion of the duodenum? That's what it looks like. And once I'm kind of happy with how the video has turned out, I watch it back a few times and make sure that the speed, it looks good and I'm comfortable and it makes sense and I can get through it all. Then what I'll do is I'll actually just export the video and pull it into my presentation software. So then this is the next part of it. So shifting gears, so that was jejunal diverticulitis. Forget about that for a moment. We're going to now talk about CONE-OS. So CONE-OS, you guys may remember, I did an intracorporeal anastomosis discussion here where I covered the CONE-OS. So I did that very thing. I actually edited this video, which is the CONE-OS video, for that presentation. And I said, you know what? This will be a good YouTube series. So then I took that YouTube series, or this video rather. I said, okay, rewatching my video that I edited in iMovie, I believe. And I said, okay, what are the salient points to this video? And what I then did was I came back here and I created a whole story around it. So this was, okay, let me give a little bit of the background of Crohn's disease, of biologics, of the fact that nearly all patients need surgery in their lifetime, talk a little bit about the Lyric trial, talk about the theories, talk about the methods of anastomotic construction, talk a little bit about this guy named Kono out of Japan, and then also talk a little bit about some of the trials that show the benefits of CONE-OS anastomosis, some of the regression curves and all that. And then I'll jump into a technical step. And this went through multiple iterations, and I decided, I really like steps of operation. So I created now the 6 steps of a CONE-OS anastomosis. And the 6 steps then turn into basically pictorial steps that we're going to use and drag these into my editing software to then to have a discussion and narrate. So from Keynote, then what I do is I'm going to stop this share and open my other editing software, which is called Camtasia. Now, why I use Camtasia is where I put everything together. Now, I don't always do this. Sometimes I'll just do it all in iMovie, or sometimes do it all just in Adobe Premiere or whatever. But basically, I like Camtasia because what it allows me to do is to do stuff like, like right here. I can put arrows and stuff like this, and I can narrate animate the arrows flying in. And then what I can also do is, stage how the arrows come in, but also I can do stuff like show my mouse tracking. So if I'm highlighting a specific step of the operation, I really need to use my mouse for it, then Camtasia does a really good job of that. And it also allows me to record my screen. So if I'm doing, as we call a talking head shot or talking head video, or it's just me talking like I am right now, I can do a whole video just like this, and Camtasia records everything, my mouse movements, cursor movements. If I'm typing, if I put the shift key, it records all that stuff, and I can put it back in here. So let me then go to show you what the finished product looks like at the end. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the timeline at the bottom. I think you guys can see this, okay? But basically down here, you're going to notice that from here to here is just my first image from my keynote presentation. I just take it and copy paste it into Camtasia, and then I record a couple snippets of audio to go with that. So let me just play it. I'm not sure if it's going to come through, but we'll try. Dr. Mark Solomon, in this video, I'm covering the what, why, and how the hand-sewn robotic CONE-OS anastomosis. I'm not sure if that audio came through, but basically it's, I will actually go to the voice narration thing, and I'll just sit there and record like maybe like a 5 or 10 second or 30-second snippet of audio, and then do the next 30-second snippet of audio, next 2-minute snippet of audio, edit and kind of go along. And then as we're going through this timeline creation, I'm making edits, I'm pulling in other photos, I'm pulling in other videos and stuff like that to make sure it's telling the story correctly. So like I showed you guys different photos in my keynote presentation than what I actually in the end. All right, so step one, we're going to join these two suture lines together. Here's the video. So the video is seeing me swinging up and turning it early in. So again, I'm not sure if you guys are hearing the video, the audio rather, but I'm basically taking these new images because as I build the video and build the story, I realize things aren't quite as nice as I want them to be. And so I'll start adding different photos and different videos and different animations to come in. And then I'll watch these things back a few times to make sure that the whole story kind of makes sense. And if it makes sense, great. If it doesn't, we scrap it and start all over again. And sometimes we'll have to dictate other things over. So, and then the final product would then just, like, for example, this stuff here gets published to, say, for example, to Surgeon or to YouTube or whatever. And I'm doing, I just posted this video literally this one here that I just submitted to YouTube before this webinar, and then I'll actually make it live just right when we're done. So that's kind of high level what my ultimate workflow is to get through this stuff. And that's it. Questions, comments, anything else you guys want to see or talk about? See, you're gonna open up the chat.
Yeah, I mean, I think the framework for thinking about how to review videos and kind of like you talked about, really having a clear purpose for what you're doing in terms of social media and also in terms of video review is a really helpful framework for us going forward. Couple of questions, as I'm sure you can see on Surgeon, but what software are you using to view things in 10 to 30 speed?
Yeah, good question. So on my phone, the web browser will allow you to go up to 10x speed. A lot of times, like in what's it called, in CSATs, but the software on my computer will be QuickTime because I have a Mac. So QuickTime will let me go to 30x speed. Actually, I think it allows you even to 60x speed.
And then Dr. Shanker commented about adding this to the robotics course with Cleary, but it'll be archived on Surgeon as well as on YouTube. But she kind of made a plug for more women to start posting, since most of the videos are posted by men, which
yes, Shanker, it's please do. And so Dr. Beth Ann Shanker is one of I consider her a mentor of mine, even though she was one of my fellows, but she's an excellent content producer, soon to be podcaster. So we're looking forward to getting her stuff started soon. Stay tuned.
From a logistics standpoint, in terms of posting videos, are you consenting your patients that you're planning on posting videos for, or kind of how does that work, at least in terms of your institution?
Yeah, very good. Very, very good question. All patients are consented for photography and videography. But so yes, they're all consented for it. I don't explicitly tell them that they're going to be in a YouTube video, for example, just because they have a generic blanket consent. But the reality is, what is absolutely mandatory is that these videos are de-identified. So I literally have no idea who this person is in this Kono. I could probably figure it out, but I've done a handful of these, and I don't think that I could figure out exactly who it is because I don't know the date. The metadata has been stripped from these videos. The date of the operation, the time of the operation, all that stuff has been stripped from these videos, which is critically important that you do. But actually, Susie, to your point, it's also important that when you're managing your own media, operative video can be discoverable. And what discovery means, it's a legal term for like the medical record is all discoverable. And in a court of law, everything in the medical record is fair game to be discovered in court and to be discussed in court if there's litigation. Operative video can also be discoverable even if it's kept in a secure environment, because if they say, okay, well, you have an operative video that's on your laptop, for example, and it says Miss Jones ureteral complication, whatever it is, you go through it, and if you track back exactly who the patient is to the date of the surgery, to the time of the complication, to whatever else, there's video documentation of such and such happening. And so you want to make sure is that if you do have that, to de-identify it as much as possible, but most importantly, that stuff cannot exist on any unsecured device. Like your cell phone is super secure, your laptop also secure, so long as you have biometric protections on it. That actually does qualify for HIPAA compliance because it's within your possession and it's secured and not like on a cloud, for example. All of my cloud-based stuff sits actually on a HIPAA compliant server because I have a BAA or business associate agreement signed with Google. And so all of my stuff cannot be discovered because it's actually HIPAA compliant. And so I'm very explicit of how my stuff gets stored because I don't want to be in one of these rogue situations, but they're also de-identified. And that's why, by the way, once you start peeling the onion back on this data privacy stuff, it's really important to really taking control of your digital portfolio, which is a whole nother discussion. Like I don't have a Gmail account. I have actually my personal account is mark@marksolomon.com. And my @marksolomon domain, I own it. The servers I own. I subcontract out with Google. But again, I have multiple contracts and I pay to sign with Google that they cannot search, sort, filter, sell, or do anything to my data on my instance on that Mark Solomon domain. And it's important because if I end up storing anything that does have PHI in it, even though I wouldn't, it cannot be discovered because it's under a HIPAA compliant instance. So anyway, just certain things to consider as you're putting your kind of your big boy and big girl pants on going to the real world is to protect yourself on multiple levels.
Another question in the chat, advice for kind of getting over that perfectionism anxiety that might prevent you from getting started on social media. It feels scary to put yourself out there sometimes, especially for those of us who are kind of starting out in our careers. I think there's this impulse that, okay, well, I could post my robot right, but it's certainly not a perfect robot right. What am I contributing to?
Yeah. No, that's a fantastic question, Retha. Thank you for that. Just post. The most important thing is that you post. And you're not posting to show off. You're not posting to say that I'm the best surgeon on the planet. Post for feedback, post for advice, post for coaching pointers. I tell you, I'm a wreck every single time I still post until today, because I know that none of my videos are perfect. I have instrument collisions all the time. There's economy of motion's a mess. Stuff is bleeding. And, I think you have to kind of get over that point that that nothing is ever perfect. And if you were perfect today, you should probably quit doing surgery because you're actually really, you don't have a growth mindset. So you really have to, in order to have a growth mindset, you really need to start engaging in something, because what it is today is the best it's ever been. And it's going to get better tomorrow and the next day and the next day. But the only way you're going to get better is if you kind of put yourself out there and get advice on how you can improve on that step of the operation. But also, I will say this one thing. I'm laughing at Avery's comment. But I think what's most important is that you pick your platform carefully. Posting on Twitter, you may get raged against, depending on what you tweet, what you put out there. Some Facebook communities are far more nourishing. And I'm obviously biased, but I think we have a very, very, very nourishing and safe environment on Surgeon, because this is what the whole point of it is to post stuff there. So post your best, definitely post your worst, post everything you can. And I would say in a secure, encrypted, and safe environment like a Surgeon or maybe a closed Facebook group, but do it, and just do it. And because the people that are there are not out to get you. Avery, I don't make fun of all your videos.
One other question. Certainly, I think the robot platform and certainly the laparoscopic platform lends itself fairly easily to videos. But, in terms of open cases, for example, the Ask Ours webinar series, the most recent one, I believe, was the difficult ileostomy creation. And I know that the moderators commented that they had a really hard time getting videos for it because, normally when we're doing ileostomies, we're not taking videos of them. But kind of, are you aware of any technology that's helpful for those of us who might be doing a lot of big open reoperative cases, or kind of leaning more on the open side, other than like a GoPro, I guess?
Yeah. No. Hey, listen, don't knock the GoPro. Actually, I have a GoPro that I think this is it right here. Could be lying. Yeah, this is it. Let me show you real fast. I'm gonna share my screen. So the typical GoPro has a wide angle lens on it, super wide angle lens. So what you got to do is you actually have to get a zoom lens.
Mhm.
Is this right? I think this is, yeah. You get the lens mod, you get this zoom lens that actually gets you right all up in there in the perfect area. So most GoPros come with a head strap. And if you get a zoom lens, and this may or may not be the one, I did this research before I actually have one, then it allows you actually to get better operative video because it's a super high quality 4K HDR image. And you could take that and edit it for publication later on. We have a bunch of these that we did for anorectal cases and sphincteroplasties and sphincterotomies and whatever else in my former practice. None of which are published on my YouTube channel, but it may make sense to actually resurrect those and do them. But yeah, GoPro is a way to go on this one. There
Gotcha.
are also, the overhead cameras can sometimes work, but usually your head kind of gets in the way. So I would recommend a GoPro.
Yeah, that's good to know. It doesn't look like there are any other questions, but I think this was a great session. We certainly appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. And I think that honestly, I love what CRS Virtual Education is doing, thinking outside the box for these more practical discussions. I think the most important thing is to just do it. And if you're not going to put yourself out there, fine. Watch your videos. Most important thing is you watch your videos because that is the way you get better. But pick your platform and just kind of go at it. Thank you guys.
Great. And just a reminder to everyone, we're off next weekend because it's Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all the dads. And then June 25th will be Layla Rashidi talking about troubleshooting with a bedside assist as part of the APD CRS robotics course. So I'll see you guys all then.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Good night.